It was a day which marked the end of the journey for two more contenders for the playoff spots. You're watching another episode of End of Days Play, and this is Uninvited Opinions. Nags, we've seen two games today. The first one between the Kings 11 Punjab and the Chennai Super Kings. Kings 11 obviously needed to win that game to stay in the tournament. That didn't happen. And then in the second game, which was also a virtual quarterfinal between the Kolkata Knight Riders and the Rajasthan Royals, Kolkata just blew Rajasthan Royals away. What's your thoughts on the day as a whole so far?
A day where most of the people who would have hoped for uh, Punjab's happy-go-lucky attitude in the later part of the tournament to continue and be a serious contender for the playoffs, but that didn't happen. Chennai, in true sense, played the spoil sport for more than one team now. And Rajasthan showed that despite all the big guns that they have, if they don't gel together as a team, which has been the theme of their campaign this season, it doesn't matter how many superstars you stuff in your playing 11, you're not going to end up on the right side of the result.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that in a little more detail later on. Let's take a look at the match between the Kings 11 and the Chennai Super Kings. Chennai Super Kings won the toss and inserted the Kings 11 to bat first. Kings 11 needed to put a big total on the board to give their bowlers confidence so that they can defend it. Sadly for them, while they had a bright start between Mayank Agarwal and KL Rahul, once Mayank Agarwal fell, they just couldn't get any momentum, and it was left to some lusty late order hitting from the fantastic Deepak Hooda to get them to a competitive total today. Chennai's bowlers were on the money. After the power play ended, Lungi Ngidi came on, and then he kept taking wickets at regular intervals, and he was ably supported by the rest of the bowling unit. And they restricted Punjab to a middling 150 odd. And then when it came to Chennai's turn to bat, they followed the same template that they've done in the last couple of games. Faf du Plessis gives them a brisk start. Ruturaj Gaikwad, sees the team home with yet another fantastic 50. And Ambati Raidu played a useful innings as well. And there was really no pressure on Chennai while they were chasing. So I think all in all, a game where Punjab needed their big guns to step up. Unfortunately, that didn't happen today.
Yes, a sad day for Punjab, where you see that the big three who have been amongst the runs, that is KL Rahul, Mayank Agarwal, Nicholas Puran, and lately even Chris Gale, all of them had a collective failure of sorts. And I think the story of KL Rahul's drop in the tempo right through the tournament continued today. He along with Agarwal actually had a good run rate in the power play, but then Rahul just tapered off in the company of Chris Gale. I don't know what happens. Is it really that he really struggles to find the gaps once the field is opened up and the power play restrictions don't apply anymore? Or is it something else that is plaguing his mind? We don't know. But somehow he was done in very beautifully by a slower ball by Lungi Ngidi. And then Imran Tahir expertly got Chris Gale out. And then Nicholas Puran had a rare failure. So that meant that I don't know whether having Maxwell would have made much of a difference, because I think finally Kings 11 Punjab ran out of patience and replaced Maxwell with Jimmy Neesham. So you had two all-rounders in Neesham and Jordan both playing in the middle order. And unlikely hero came up today. It was Deepak Hooda. I felt if you have the big guns and none of them stand up at the top, then you are always not going to post a total that's going to challenge the opposition, or that's not going to bat the opposition out of the contest.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Punjab actually. I quite like the spirit and the determination that they showed in the second half of the tournament to really pull themselves back from where they were. I do feel a bit sorry for them. My mind goes back to the first game that they lost to the Delhi Capitals in a super over, where they should have won in regular time, but they were called one shot incorrectly by the umpires. And another interesting fact which we were discussing earlier is the fact that Kings 11 throughout the tournament they've not won a single game in Abu Dhabi. On the other side, Chennai Super Kings were playing with the freedom of a team which had nothing to lose. Fortunately for them, they did not put in bad performances and be blown away by other teams. They made teams work really hard and have caused some late upsets, which has really kept the tournament still interesting. And I think they've at least, if not anything, they've unearthed a batsman for the future for the franchise, if not for the national team. Ruturaj Gaikwad, has demonstrated why, there was a lot of hype around him in the early part of the tournament, and he again played a wonderful innings to see his team home.
so pleasing to see. It is not about just scoring those pretty shots and scoring those runs, but the consistency with which he's been able to see the batting team through to the win. Two out of the 350s that he's got, he's actually remained not out. So that's wonderful. We were anticipating or looking at a total revamp in the CSK setup going forward, but looks like they have kind of unearthed the personnel required to participate in this rebuilding phase. All they had to do was to actually retire a few of the old guards. In Shane Watson, I don't think we are going to see him again. I may be proven wrong in CSK colors. And even, I believe, to some extent, Dwayne Bravo. So having those two overseas spots now opened up and the benching of Kedar Jadhav for good, I believe, we now have a new look CSK team which looks more rejuvenated, which looks more energetic, and which looks hungrier. A word on Punjab's bowling, though. I feel across the two matches against CSK, all they could muster was a single wicket, which is what they got today. So that says a lot about the lack in confidence or the lacking in skills at critical moments when it comes to their bowling attack. One observation I had with the bowling of Ravi Bishnoi, he is obviously a beautiful, bright talent. To have a under 19 player step up to this league and play through the tournament, all the 14 games for Punjab, speaks volumes about his potential. But something that he needs to look to improve is that he needs to trust his stock ball, his leg spinner, a lot more. He tends to use the googlies too often, so much so that he becomes predictable. He should look up to someone like Rashid Khan. He has similar attributes. He is quick through the air.
Absolutely. I think one real shining spot for Punjab to take into next season. Your pick for the player of the match?
I'll go with Ruturaj Gaikwad. When Punjab notched up 158, although it was below par, but they still had the momentum during the changeover. They had some lusty blows from Deepak Hooda, and which would have made them believe that yes, we have something to fight. And a few early wickets in the chase could have set the cat among the pigeons. But there was nothing of that kind with the steady head of Ruturaj Gaikwad. He was soaking up some dot balls, but then a release shot was a 6 or a 4, and the run rate was never a problem. So it was beautiful.
I can't agree more. Ruturaj Gaikwad for me as well. Let's take a look at the second game today between the Kolkata Knight Riders and the Rajasthan Royals. Kolkata had a strange sort of batting innings. They had good, decent combinations from Shubman Gill and Rahul Tripathi at the top, but it really required some late and excellent hitting by Captain Morgan to get them to a very challenging and commanding total in excess of 190. For Rajasthan, it was a bit surprising to see Joff Archer bowled out by the 17th over. But then Rahul Tripathi was excellent in the middle of the game, taking 3 wickets. So heading into the break, Rajasthan would have been a little apprehensive, and it showed in their batting. While they came out guns blazing, they just lost too many wickets at the top of the order. And Pat Cummins was excellent, taking 4 wickets in his quota of overs to really break the back of the Rajasthan batting. And then, despite some fight put up by Josh Butler and Rahul Tripathi, you knew that the game was done and dusted by then. And it was a big win for KKR, which has really boosted their net run rate, and they're now sat at number 4. I'd like to talk about the Rajasthan batting first, because when the KKR innings finished, the big question in my mind was, will Rajasthan, we know they have brilliant hitters in their team, they've been in excellent form, but will they show the necessary maturity in approaching a chase like this? And at the end of in the first few balls, I thought, okay, they're probably going to go bang bang at this and try and improve the net run rate. But then they exactly answered my question. They showed that they probably didn't have that level of maturity in sort of chasing this total the right way.
I think there was a muddled strategy there. They didn't know what to target, whether to actually just go for the win first and secure those 2 points, or to go win big and get the improved net run rate as well. For trying to achieve both, you end up achieving nothing. And that's exactly what we saw. Obviously, Stokes has been happy-go-lucky by going hard at the ball in the power plays. So his approach was understandable, that in spite of losing Robin Uthappa the previous over, he was still going for the bowling. But then after that, after the openers fell, I felt there needed to be a calm head, and Steve Smith was just the right person. Fair to say he has actually had a disappointing IPL this season. And Sanju Samson as well. With all the potential and all the praise that we hear of him, I think the consistency is one question mark that he goes back with, an even bigger question mark, I would say. So when you lose 5 wickets inside the power play, then there is no way coming back into the game. So Joss Butler and Tewatia, despite their heroics, which did not last long, they could not have hoped for a different result anyway.
Plenty of positives for KKR, though. I think their top order batting has been a bit of a concern, especially Shubman Gill's batting tempo. He showed a very good aggressive intent today, scoring at 150, which should set him up well. If they make it to the playoffs. Rahul Tripathi, thankfully, batted in the top of the order instead of being sent in foolishly at number 7 or whatever. And then Morgan showed why he's been so highly rated. A lot of people were expecting him to have a really good IPL this year because he's coming on the back of he came in on the back of some good form. And despite a middling start in the early part of the tournament, he's really sort of improved, and he's probably been KKR's most consistent batsman, definitely in the second half of the tournament, propping up the batting order when they collapsed, or giving them good finishes with some late hitting. Pat Cummins, there was a bit of concern in the early half of the tournament that he wasn't taking any wickets. He's suddenly got a clump of wickets now towards the latter end of the tournament. Varun Chakravarti has been fabulous as always. He was just bang on money today. It was very difficult to batsmen are just not able to line him up very well and hit him out of the ground. So all in all, big positives for them to take. And I think lastly, they also had Andre Russell back. And even though he didn't bowl, but just getting him out on the park again and being part of the team, I think that's a massive confidence boost. So KKR will be, will keep their fingers crossed, hoping that the results over the next 2 days go their way and they click on to the last playoff spot.
You very well summed up KKR's positives. One other point, I think something that you have been asking for was the return of Shivam Mavi. I'll basically reuse the word that you had described him, a well-rounded bowler. So in company of Pat Cummins, the two then actually operating at the top gives an entirely different outlook to the new ball attack of KKR, and it'll augur well for them going forward.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think he was really on the money today. I think Stokes basically lost some of his fluency in Mavi's first over, and I think he went for an aggressive shot, and I'd have to take my hat off to Dinesh Karthik. What a catch! The ball was just flying. He flung himself through his left, caught it in the air, and it just about settled in his webbing. So that was brilliant to see. Who was the man of the match for you today?
I'll say I agree with the panelist choice of handing it to Pat Cummins. He was brilliant, taking those 4 wickets. All 4 of them, I think, came in the power play. So 4 out of the 5 in the power play, and that completely breaks the back of the chase. And we've been complaining that he's not been amongst the wickets, and he's answered all those questions fantastically. And I think KKR is going to be mighty pleased. Yeah, we've not been consistently doing the fun fact, but I'm just tempted to pitch one in here. It is the alternating fortunes of Nitish Rana with the bat. It was a golden duck followed by 80, followed by a golden duck, followed by 80 odd, followed by a golden duck today. I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but this is too much of a coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely. If KKR get to play in the playoffs, he'd be hoping that he has another 80 in store. Let's see what happens. Which brings us to tomorrow's game between number 2 and number 3 on the table, which is the Royal Challengers Bangalore and the Delhi Capitals. Now, there is nothing to distinguish between RCB, DC, and KKR except for net run rate, and you know that one of them is going to lose tomorrow. The question is, how big a margin of victory or how big a margin of defeat is it going to be? What's your prediction for tomorrow?
I think it's very difficult to predict. 2 teams that are totally playing flawed cricket at the moment, that are not at the best of their confidence. If anything, I think DC are even worse in their confidence compared to RCB, which is probably why I would give RCB the edge. But I think given the way the pitch conditions have changed in the night due to the dew, I think the toss is going to have a major say in the outcome.
Absolutely. I echo what you say. RCB are probably more confident than DC are at this point in time. And they've had a couple of good wins at Abu Dhabi. I remember the game against KKR where Siraj, blew them away with the new ball burst. So I think I'm my money's on RCB and potentially DC dropping off the top 4 list. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel to keep more videos coming your way. And as always, we'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye.